He's in the consulting world. He's not super comfortable with it. Like being an entrepreneur is not easy.
No.
Yeah.
Right. And I know you've said for years, I hate trying to get myself out there. I just want to do the work and do the thing. So
I'm a teller, not a seller.
yeah. I'm a teller, not a seller. It is not easy. It's not, and it's a mind shift.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
So we just had a good conversation with this gentleman, but we talked about with AI in particular, it is going to automate. It is going to be helpful in a lot of ways, but it is not a silver bullet. Right. And it definitely cannot replace a human component, right? And so I think that actually for all of us and the other people we work with, that's what we're good at. And it doesn't matter how much AI you introduce. If you lose the human component, it's going to fail. Welcome to the Agile Couple podcast. And today, Kevin and I have one of my most favorite people, a special guest. My friend Sherry Oswald is here. We don't necessarily have a title for this episode. We're going to kind of see where it goes, but we're going to have a fun conversation, I can tell you already. So Sherry, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you. So I'm Sherry Oswald. I am a Microsoft MVP, and I specialize in Microsoft technologies, but I focus on people. We've known each other for years, and both of us started out in human resources back in the day. So I always say I'm people first. And when I approach tech and training in tech or change management in tech, I always look at how does this affect the people? Yeah. And so that's where my focus is now, not just on the tech. So my specialties are change management, adoption, and my job is to make people love their tech.
Oh, she has a job.
Yeah.
Now, you two have never worked together, but you've known her just because Sherry. So Sherry and I actually also started a business right before COVID.
Yeah.
Together, right?
Good plan.
Yeah. It was all great. And then everything came to an abrupt halt. But you're still running that Power Up Learning, right?
Yeah. The cornerstone of that business was our Microsoft consulting with the enterprise Microsoft clients, and required us to have in-person sessions. So that's the only reason that didn't really evolve and materialize to what we thought, because of course nothing after 2020 for years was in person, and now that program is unfortunately defunct. So it's been a long journey, but it allows me to do what I love to do. And luckily I have the full-time battalion chief husband who brings in the bread and butter, and I get to do the gravy.
That's right. So sorry, I asked you a question and then went into this, but so how do you know Sherry?
Well, yeah, just vicariously through Leanne and, all the adventures that have happened throughout the years. And
that's a good term for that.
Yeah. But I love what you had said as well, because it was focusing on the people, right? And I think that's something that we've all had in common, especially in the training, type of area, is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the technology is. It focuses on, making sure that the human component is still there. And we got some challenges, going on today with AI and everything that we'll get into. But I love the fact that it's the people-centered aspect of what we do.
Yeah.
Kevin and I were literally just having a conversation with another gentleman yesterday, actually a couple gentlemen yesterday, talking about that very thing, because he's in the consulting world. He's not super comfortable with it. Like being an entrepreneur is not easy.
No.
Yeah.
Right. And I know you've said for years, I hate trying to get myself out there. I just want to do the work and do the thing. So
I'm a teller, not a seller.
Yeah. I'm a teller, not a seller. It is not easy. It's not, and it's a mind shift.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
So we just had a good conversation with this gentleman, but we talked about with AI in particular, it is going to automate. It is going to be helpful in a lot of ways, but it is not a silver bullet. Right. And it definitely cannot replace a human component, right? And so I think that actually for all of us and the other people we work with, that's what we're good at. And it doesn't matter how much AI you introduce. If you lose the human component, it's going to fail.
Yeah, 100%. I keep joking Skynet is live. And the more I keep hearing people wanting to pawn everything off on AI, I'm like, Skynet is live, right? This is not a good plan.
Yeah.
You should not, now they're talking about agents monitoring other agents in the Microsoft. I'm like, no.
Yeah. And I think I remember, because you and I spent so much time at Microsoft offices for 15 years, probably. But there was a while back, I can't even say what year, before I really thought AI was really a thing, right? And I remember hearing about like the supercomputers and some of that. We had one in Butte that was a big thing. But there was something that I remember hearing that Microsoft had built basically an AI model, and that maybe multiples, and they started to kind of do that. They were talking and they took over and nobody knew what was happening and they shut it down.
Yep.
Came up
Was
with
that a
their own
true?
language.
Yeah. Was that a true story?
I don't know. I've heard the lore. I don't know anybody who was involved in that
Yeah.
that can confirm or deny it, but I've heard that.
Yeah. So I think, let's not have agents watching agents. Let's keep humans involved in the process. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got spies with the spy. You know, when I
Yeah.
think of agents, I
Everything's
think those little
good.
cartoon
Yeah.
characters with the bandit mask, you know, and they're following each other around now. Like, okay, that's a little creepy, you know, because they're like following each other around.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's a fun time to be in tech. It's also a scary time to be in tech, and it's a little bit intimidating, I think, for a lot of people. And the first time I heard about AI, my brother-in-law actually was like, "Have you heard of this thing called ChatGPT? Don't tell Michael." Or Matthew, his younger son, was still in high school. He goes, "Don't tell Matthew because he will never do his own homework again."
Oh, our son?
Yeah.
It's actually quite amazing. You know what? I think it's a gift. I think it's a resource that if
Yes.
they can figure out how to use it, it's not all bad, because like I can't tell if you actually wrote it or if you didn't write it. And you'd have to put it in some other AI tool to see. But sorry to interrupt you. What was your brother-in-law saying? Like, don't tell him.
He's like, I was like, I've never heard of this. And I didn't even really look at it. One day I kind of poked around in it and I thought, you know what? I can write this better myself, you know. But it's evolved so much since then. And now that I understand how the OpenAI model is developed and how it works with the other tools, I get it now that we're constantly training it, but it's still not as up to date as I am. You know, it's not getting the cutting edge stuff work.
Still got a lag.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it's not.
Well, and the hallucinations that it does is real.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest concern. Even if it's like we deal with software teams, the hallucination, it'll create code that is, or garbage behind the scenes that isn't there.
Right.
It just acts like there's a file or acts like there's some code or whatever. If we were creating something from the business side, it's the same thing. So I know that our other business partner had told us about an attorney, I don't know what state, in the last year or two, that went to court, used ChatGPT, and it hallucinated case study, and that's what he used. Everything seemed great. He was feeling super confident, and the whole thing went foul because it wasn't legitimate case study. It wasn't actual cases that it
Yeah.
used.
It's like, you know, X versus Y didn't ever happen. Yeah. That's scary. And that's that kind of the point we were talking about, you know, before we started officially talking, is that the AI is only as good as the people that are there. And Microsoft has named it, you know, not to be Microsoft centric on this, but they've named it Copilot for a reason.
It's not autopilot.
Yeah, it's not autopilot. You're the pilot. They're
Yeah.
the co-pilot. You have to have, you know, but if you don't have the knowledge, the foundational knowledge of what you're doing research for or the coding that you're creating to be able to fact check and make sure that it's correct or that it's effective or whatever, then it's not a tool for you anymore. It's garbage in, garbage amplified. It's not just garbage in, garbage out anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I recently went to Vegas for a learning conference. And I mean, everybody there was talking about AI, which is great. But it's, to me, I'm like, oh my, we see so many of these phases where it's like, it's the whole thing, right?
Cycles. Yeah.
But there are so many tools as well. So I did go through a really cool session where he was actually a facilitator. I think he was a front-end developer, but he's not like a builds development. He does like websites and stuff, right? But he was teaching vibe coding. And do you know, I know we used to call it low code with some of the Microsoft stuff. Vibe coding is a little bit more like, it's kind of using agents, I think, in these different software. And I think they're kind of open source. So be careful with that too, because if it's free, it's not free.
Right. Yeah.
But he was able to show us that he built all sorts of different things. Like it actually looked a lot of like Planner. He built his own kind of looking Planner task-driven thing. And he built some different things that was like, what am I trying to do? But I thought it was kind of powerful because anybody in any role, if you have a need and you have the time and you're the kind of person that is not afraid of it and wants to try it, anybody could go and build something.
Right.
Then you don't need to go and wait for your software team to do it. Right. So Do you, in Microsoft, because you spend so much time going to different conferences and speaking sessions and stuff, what else is there besides, there's Copilot, obviously, like GitHub Copilot, which is all the software part of it. Then there's the Office 365 Copilot. What else is going on in that world? Is there anything else?
Everything has a Copilot. And I think we were actually having a discussion last week during a tweet jam that I did with some other Microsoft.
Tweet jam.
Thank you, Christian, for bringing us together with the tweet jams. But we were, discussing the fact that every element of every Microsoft technology, it was basically came down from the top that every single piece has to have some kind of Copilot chat, some kind of AI component to it by XYZ date, whatever that was. And, people are like, how did you get to speak at Ignite? I'm like, because I put Copilot in it, and there's jokes of like, did you notice this is probably the one session, this whole thing that didn't have Copilot, when they're talking about other things. So it's integrated into everything, but it's also become a directive from the technology companies, not just Microsoft.
Oh, no, it's not just
that
Microsoft.
AI has to be part of it, or else we're not keeping up.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is you've got, and they're forgetting the fact, and this is my opinion, that it's the users behind the scenes that maybe they don't have confidence in that. And you've worked with people, and I've worked with people that are, I've told people to right click and they move their mouse to the right and hit the left click button. They they're just beginning.
Yeah.
And so case in point, their sessions were 25 minutes long. So you're on the stage, you do your thing, you get off. The session before mine had about 20 to 30 people. I didn't really understand how many seats were there, but mine was standing room only. Okay. So, and I found out later, I got the statistics. There were 310 people that where
you had 20 or
rows
so
deep
before and after you.
Yes.
What was your session called?
It was Copilot Prompting 101, basically. Yeah. And I have a 7 element. So I've heard like the who, what, where, when, and why. Yeah. And the funniest, and I'll tell you the funny story behind it, but mine has 7 elements, and I took each the prompt and asked for this, and then I added the next one, then I added the next, showed them how the results were different based on how much information. Yeah. But I prefaced the whole thing was like, you have to create your prompts like you're talking to a teenager that you want to do their chores.
Yeah. When I say clean the room, is it my version of clean the room or your interpretation?
And bless my son, because that's the one that popped in. And poor kid, I throw him under the bus, but he's not a kid anymore. He's well grown. But back in the day, I was like, take out the trash. Your job is to take out the trash. And I would come back from a work trip, and he's like, I want to go out with my friends. And he says, I'm like, no, you didn't do your chores all week. He goes, yeah, I did. I said, no, you didn't take the trash out. And I said, there's my Starbucks cup from last Sunday in the trash can. So I know you didn't take out the trash. I said, so my son, wonderful son that he is, there are 4 trash cans. There are 4 trash bags. Each day you must empty all the trash bags.
And replace them with a new bag.
Yeah, or you can combine them if they're not full, but they must all be emptied on a daily basis. And then, by the way, that's a successful outcome. Right? Yes. And on Monday, our true test of success is that you put it out on the curb for the trash guy, and then you bring the little rolly thing back up. So, and they're all laughing. The whole audience is laughing because they can completely relate to that. Yeah. You can't, when you search for things in a browser, that's content.
Yeah.
When you search using prompting, you get context, but you also have to provide the direction, the expectation. Who am I speaking as? Who am I speaking to?
Yeah.
Because I'm, if I would tell my husband take out the trash, that would be a completely different result, than because our relationship is different. So I'm going to gear things towards that audience for what I'm trying to get back. Same thing with prompting. And I think that's what a lot of people that are just breaking into AI don't understand how to not just search. They need to know how
they do treat it like Google.
Yeah.
Right. They don't, the shift has not happened.
Yes.
But prompting is, because, we work with a major client, and some people in the organization are saying they're not really hiring software engineers. They're hiring software prompters.
Yes.
Now
that's like a new, that's going to be a job.
Yeah.
You're going to be a prompting engineer. That's going to be a job title, and probably already is, I'm sure, somewhere. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I love the fact that you were talking about as far as, your son, when you say take out the trash versus your husband, when you say take out the trash, you're going to get 2 different outcomes, different results. And I think that's true in everything that we're doing. And I think that's why with the AI right now, there's a lot of this hype with regard to AI being a replacement for the human component, when in fact, just like with Copilot, it's an augmentation. How do we, improve people's productivity and their efficiency by utilizing AI with that human component?
Right.
And I think what you're describing as well, as far as, based on experience, your son's experience versus your husband's experience with you, and like you said, the relationship's different as well. But you look at, people who are coming in new to their career versus those who've been here for, 20 years. There's a different level of expectation on what they can do. And I loved what you said, the content versus context. That context is really what we need to be focusing on in the prompting, because that context is so important in, creating a prompt, that's really going to be effective and do what you are expecting it to do.
And I just inspired myself in like, how am I going to take that into the agentic world? Because that's my area I need to develop this week. But so here's the difference between the agentics with the whole take out the trash analogy is that my husband knows he automatically sees if the trash is full or it smells. It doesn't have to be taken out every day, but if it's full or it smells, he takes it out to the garbage, right?
Yeah.
So it learns and starts making
like logical decisions.
And it's not something that you have to handhold through things. So I think that's the next step. Now I've got to go write that down so I won't forget it, because I'm like, that's kind of brilliant, actually.
Well, I was actually thinking, when I was thinking about our son, who recently, because he is, let's say, less than motivated with school. Like he feels like it's literally torturous to go to school.
Oh, yeah.
And he only has a few months left. We're like holding on to get him through his senior year. It's not an intelligence thing. He is bored out of his gourd.
Yep.
And is just, but he did have to, before the end of the last quarter, right, in December.
Well, they teach to the lowest.
They do. And it's like, they just make what I would like it. He doesn't like it. It's just a difference in
my
his
daughter finished
ROI.
online for that reason.
Yes.
She didn't finish.
But I was thinking about is that, because I get very frustrated. It's a very hot thing for me. I'm like, just do the work. Like it just drives me nuts, right? But do you remember when he had to study for his stats? He had a stats economics class, which is not an easy class at all. And it's already passed where I'm like, I don't know what that ratio. I don't know. I can't help you.
So my nephew that know, he's in statistics. He goes, I got signed up for statistics. I'm like, I hated that class. I would totally.
Thank God you have ChatGPT.
Exactly right. But he's loving that class. So I'm like,
was it that, or actually was it government?
No, it was his American history.
It was a government class actually. But here's where I went. If I were teaching in schools now, I would really encourage some of this, because while he hates sitting down and doing the simplest of work, as soon as he could be creative or he thinks he's breaking the system, if he thinks he's doing something against the rules, he's totally onto it. So he used ChatGPT. They had 8 to 10 different chapters of, like, basically the teacher had PowerPoints in there in Teams. So he basically downloaded them, put them in ChatGPT, but he's very good at prompting. And he said, create a random question with these types of questions, asking me the things, vary in all of these chapters, blah, blah, blah. And he gave it really good prompting. So that then created this test that I went through and Kevin went through with him. And he was all of a sudden intrigued. Then he created like a, what do you call it? The flashcard things so that he could print those. Like, he does not care about studying at all. But because he was creative in trying to do this, like doing it his own way, he was so into it.
See,
and the teachers at school wrote us. Yeah. And they were like, I don't know what happened to him, but he's got everybody studying in class today. We're like, okay, so it's more that I wish that people would understand that. Like, there is some positive to it. How can we let people be creative and go beyond the box and do things? Because the prompting is the key.
And that's what's going to serve them when they move into the workforce too. Not just being able to crunch numbers on a calculator.
Or just following these steps over and
or
routine.
Memorization.
Right.
Yeah. So when I was in, I can't remember, like accounting class, I steered away from being a CPA because they told me I had to do everything by hand in pen. In the CPA exam, like, I can't use a calculator. It's like, as long as I know how
it's a tool, why not?
Which formula to find, I should be able to look that formula up and use it. I shouldn't have to memorize the formula, right? So give them the tools, teach them how to use those tools, and then they'll be more effective in that. So I referred it's my son's wife's younger brother, and I brought him into another partner that didn't work out well, but I referred him to a client of mine that works out of Denver. And those younger set of eyes, he came in, like 6 months later, I had another friend that was looking for a job. I said, hey, do you need any more help? And he said, no, the last one you sent me is a rock star. And he goes, I don't need any help. He has actually gone through, because he's got a fresh set of eyes on some older established procedures. He goes, he's automated all this stuff that we used to do manually.
That's amazing. And he would have went into a normal job having no self-confidence, thinking he doesn't have there is a benefit to having the different generations working together.
Well, in that previous position, I referred him to, kind of said, he's like, I never want to work in tech because it was such a bad experience for him. But he went back to printing T-shirts, I'm like, you're so smart. You're capable of so much more.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I was able to get him another opportunity in tech that has been positive. And he's like, thank you for referring me. This is the best job I've ever had. I'm like, oh, thank God. Because again, I'm people first. I want people to thrive and not be in somewhere where they were beaten down on a daily basis by somebody who's
that's the other thing that comes up with me with AI is I just coming from the tech world that we live in.
Yeah.
And particularly for me going through COVID, knowing how busy we all were just trying to get everybody to be successful working from home. And I know you and I and Kevin have always worked this way. When you work you're working nonstop. Like you don't ever have any time off. But for the regular people who then were working from home, I 100% know that the large majority of them work way more beyond their normal 40 hours.
Yep.
And now it's a little bit disheartening to see that all these big corporations, who a lot of them made more money ever over that period of time.
Because they don't have all the overhead of having offices.
Now they're requiring people to come back to the office, or worse, they're laying everybody off.
Yep.
Right? And so in particular, the tech companies, I have a real issue with that. Like you made a lot of money off of software engineers, off of sales, off of everybody.
Yeah. Who got you through
period.
that whole big crisis, right?
Yeah.
Who got you through that? And now you're letting them go.
And AI is part of that. So the reasoning for it. So it's not the answer for everything. And it's going to be like every other pendulum. You cannot just have all these jobs created and it's all electronic, it's all automated, and there's no people.
Right.
You're not going to replace all the positions, or if you do, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Right.
But you still have to have those knowledgeble people on those processes, those procedures that do a quality check and make sure that it's correct.
Yeah.
But I think, to your point, bringing newer people into this, anybody can use AI. Steve just told me, my husband, he goes like, I just asked it to create a whole workout schedule for me.
Exactly.
And it did.
Yeah.
So those things that I would have had to go to a personal trainer for or something, it can pull from the knowledge base and bring forward that simple things like, I was just on vacation for 10 days. Can I come back? Can you summarize my inbox and tell me the high level things and the low hanging fruit that I can knock out of my inbox? But I'm still not going to trust. Personally, I'm not going to trust. I had a self-parking car for like 6 years. That thing never parked itself. I work in tech. It breaks. It does not work. And then I'm in San Francisco, and they've got these little robo cars now. And I'm like, no way I'm getting in that thing.
Our daughter just told us she was in Phoenix. She was in Scottsdale, I think, and she was in one of those cars. And what did she say? Something happened. What went down? And they all were just lost their minds.
No, that was last weekend when we were in
But
Mexico.
Maddie was stuck in one.
Yeah, well, San Francisco had a blackout.
Yes.
And all of the cars,
I don't know what they're called.
Yeah, they're little square.
They're like an Uber, but there's nobody driving.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so you saw all these pictures showing up on social media with all these cars like stuck in the intersections, not moving, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
So-
There's two versions there in San Francisco. They have the ones that have this little radar thingy on the top. They're white. And then they have these, they almost look like a little train car. There's like no driver's seat.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you step, it's a little square box. You step in, there's seats, and it drives you wherever you're going to go. They're the weirdest thing.
It's kind of, in a way, I'm like, as a female, it's kind of cool that you don't have to get into a car with a stranger.
Right.
There's some benefit there, but it's also kind of creepy that you're like, what's driving me around? Where's it taking me?
Well, my first experience with that was I was in Seattle, and a Uber driver picked me up in a Tesla and drove me to the airport. And so, chit-chatting with the driver he's got his hands, on the wheel or whatever. I said, do you ever just let this thing drive itself? He goes, oh, it's been driving itself the whole time. Oh. I said,
I think they have to kind of touch it.
I needed to know that. You should have asked my permission for that, because I would have not consented to that, But his hands were on the wheel.
I think Tesla requires.
He didn't just sit back and let the car actually drive itself, because if something were to happen, he was right there ready, hopefully.
Well, whatever Maddie was saying, somebody who who it was younger people, she said, who are automating the cars or something. They sounded younger to her, that they were talking to them, and because they were late to get to the airport, and I don't know if they hit a button or what, but they said this thing is stuck or it's not moving and we have to get to the airport, like we're going to miss our flight. And so they were able to take it over and get it to go where it needed. But I'm like,
it went into some construction.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, and it got stuck in
it
the
didn't
construction
understand
zone.
like what it was supposed to do.
Oh, so like there's,
So somebody had to like remotely take control of the car and drive it out.
Yeah.
well, I guess there's that capability too.
Yeah.
And then that's now a new job.
Exactly.
I'm the guy that remotely drives your car
Right.
when it, the robotics or whatever fails.
So you're not really alone either, which is kind of creepy in a different way. So now who's watching you? Like, I don't know.
Exactly. It's like, is there anything in my teeth?
Yeah.
Well, I think, didn't she say as well that during one of the trips they didn't wear their seatbelt, and the next
Oh,
time
yes. They got
said,
in trouble.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you're wearing your seatbelt when you're riding.
Oh, they ratted him out from
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
So they got the sensors and they could see in the car or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's different, but it's not necessarily the best fit for everything and everybody. Right. Yeah.
And I think, just like with everything with tech, there's going to be the laggards. There's going to be the people that are chomping at the bit. So I was at the Microsoft conference in San Francisco, and all these people are like, I'm so going to go to use these, and I was like, I ain't doing it. I'm the laggard in that place, but I'll teach you how to use it. But I am not, and I'm excited to, but I'm not going to consume that until it's tried, true, and tested.
Yeah.
Just like upgrading to Windows 11, I drug my feet. And I like, somebody else can find all the problems because I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Let's not even start on that whole thing. Like, I love Microsoft. I've loved Microsoft, but just them starting to take away your files from being saved locally and all that. That's my choice. I bought the PC. It's I don't go there.
So I just did, I always do a 12 days of Christmas for the last 3 years. I've done a 12-day series. And this series was because they deprecated Windows 10. Like, here's all the things that Windows 11 can do for you. And it's just interesting to see the spikes on the specific videos that were, it's like they didn't even know that was there. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I helped somebody, And some of them, there's like 20 views and some was like 200 views or whatever.
Yeah.
And again, basic knowledge is Windows. People just use it the way they always thought, and they never.
There's so many features that most people. It's like we've always said with Excel, right?
Yeah.
It's like you use 10 or maybe 20% of the product. Most people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have CPAs that stand up in the middle of your class like, can I just hug you? And they're like, you're welcome, but I'm good. I don't need.
I did see Satya had a little video, and obviously it's the early version that wasn't out yet. But I was so excited because there was some new Copilot assisted formula or something that I was like, oh my God, I want to go do that. That's going to solve my thing. I went to get into mine and I'm like, I don't have it. Oh my God, that's so frustrating, right? Because you almost shouldn't show me yet.
Yeah.
Right. And I know we've lived in that world and whatever, but it's like.
Well, the hardest part for me about all those demos is that they're recorded under perfect circumstances.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you go back, in Microsoft, the marketing gets ahead of the development often. And then people that are tech forward get out there and try it. Like for me, I was like, I'm going to, girl don't code. You know, that whole girls who code, girl don't code. I don't code. I can read code. I can tweak code. I can reuse code, but I don't like to sit there and write code.
Yeah.
And I wanted something, and I can't remember what it was, but I was like, let me see what it does with a code for this.
Yeah.
And it completely 100% failed.
Yeah.
And then I tried to use it for something to analyze data in Excel just to see what it would do. And then I looked at what it did. I'm like, that's not right. But you have to have the base knowledge.
But how would you know it's
to
not
verify
right?
it,
Yes.
And I didn't have to sit there and type it all out and figure out the logic. That sped things up for me. Great. But you can't just let it act on your behalf.
Yeah. I do think really, because we've been doing some Copilot sessions with customer, and I brought that up. I said, it is called Copilot, not Autopilot, for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's something to heed. Like, you still need to know. You still, like, if we're teaching software engineers, they need to know what quality software development is. What are the best coding standards? Like, they need to know that stuff before, because you can't catch it, and you don't have the ability to
It's not going to write your
discern
comments for you. It's not going to iterate for you. It's not going to, when I have done torturously had to do any kind of Visual Basic or whatever coding, it's iterative.
Yeah.
Test this. Did it work?
Yeah.
Add something to it. Test this. Did it work? You can't, and kind of same thing with prompts, right? What result did I get? Now refine it a little bit. Now refine a little bit. But so I can see, but you have to know how to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, that context is so important.
I was talking to Kevin because we're going to be doing a whole lot of stuff with AI. But you and I and some of our other people, so we have been MCTs, but we came from the productivity side
Yes.
really forever. And it's always been a whole...
Which we're not MCTs anymore.
Right. There's a whole journey of like, why are you
Don't get me
ignoring
started.
95% of the users? I don't understand, but whatever. But there's still like, I think there's a huge area here. And I don't know if our listeners, I think it doesn't matter what role you are, that you could learn. There are some benefits to this. So there are some things that you could learn that if you are doing something manually and you do it over and over, or you're going to hand it over to somebody else and you understand what needs to be done, you could probably use some automation in that. Like there are some things that we could help on the productivity side that would be huge. It's not just software, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it kind of go back to our roots and how, we met as Microsoft certified trainers. So instead of talking in letters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we did what we're called the customer immersion experience. And that 1,000% changed the way I actually train because
Everything.
yeah, because I started out, level 1, level 2, level 3, here's your book, blah, 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 do your exercise, blah, 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 do your exercise. And I will do that now, but it's not my favorite because I don't really feel like it meets the need. But the customer immersion experience started out with, let's whiteboard and just have a conversation and tell me in your day what is painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
We actually could do that, Sherry. That would be kind of a cool thing if we did something like that with this, but we tried to introduce some AI prompting.
yes.
That just hit my thing.
Yes.
Right? That could be kind of fun.
And that's kind of where I'm going with this is like, don't just assume that something can be fixed. Let's talk about what could potentially be fixed. What are the things in your day? Because we would find it was called painting the pain.
Yeah.
And then by the end of those 2.5 hours, they were ready to sign whatever paperwork you put in front of them.
I know, we never got a single royalty, man. That would have been amazing.
I got the same amount of money and I closed a $25 million deal in 2.5 hours. I couldn't close in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But they're very, very effective because it comes down to the conversation.
Yeah.
It's not IT directing what changes. It's the people driving the change.
Right.
And when you can fix their pain, they will beg for it.
Yeah.
And that's where adoption comes in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that's missing. And so they're like AI. Well, okay, but what is in it for me? Okay, come back and have it summarize your inbox for you, or automate something that, like you're saying, is tedious and time consuming. Can we figure out a way to do that? That's how people are actually going to start using AI.
Yeah.
And it's not for just for coding.
It's
It's not
not,
just
no.
for writing papers or
People could even, how we were just talking about, most people don't use the large majority of the functionality that's already there.
Yeah.
You could use AI to go, what's some new functionality? I mean, you could prompt it to go, I could learn at the same time.
Exactly.
Right? Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
teach me how to use Flashfill, people.
Yeah.
If you have not used Flashfill in Excel, that's like the number one thing that I would leave to the end of the little Excel segment because they're like, right? Is that primacy and recency? They're going to remember the things that the first and the last, and
Yes.
that's the one that was like, that'll save me so much time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and building stories around it. So I was recently talking to a potential client. I said, the difference between me and other training providers is that I use analogies that people can relate to.
Kevin's a huge analogy person too. Yeah.
And they love that. It's like, and when I talk about OneDrive versus SharePoint, OneDrive is the file cabinet that sits underneath your desk.
Right.
I said, all these people get on this rabbit hole of their we files and me files. I'm like, no, you got the file cabinet underneath your desk that you have, and then you have the file cabinets out in the hallway in your department. That's SharePoint.
It's a layer of security and access.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. And you can have multiple file cabinets. And when you say it to people like that, especially if they've been in the workforce for any amount of time, they're like, oh, okay. Because if somebody said, well, you can put things in OneDrive, you can put things in Teams, you can put things in, well, what goes where?
Yeah.
When you explain it, like, if you were to walk out of the building and put it in that little white box, or you move departments and you put and take it with you, that goes in your OneDrive.
Yes.
If it doesn't, if you wouldn't take it with you, then it goes in those shared file cabinets. And they're like, ding, 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 big light bulbs go on. And those are my favorite moments.
It's so funny. I was just remember because when Kevin and I started IQ, 2007 really.
Yeah.
But 2008 is probably when we had our
Which is a
first
brilliant
customers.
name. I love it. I've always loved it.
But I remember I was starting with the little I can help you with Excel or whatever, some of those classes. But I started doing more of those, right? So we moved in and we had a lot of agency, state agency classes. and like that right clicking person. I remember I finally came up with my own little sayings that when you said that I had forgotten till just now, but I used to say commit to the click. Because, or no, you want the white chunky guy. You know, when you're in Excel and they can't figure out where on the cell they're putting it for what your mouse is. I'm like, look
The
for
many
the white
cursors of Excel. Yes.
But the commit to the click, because they would be like, they try and move stuff. I'm like, no, you're just trying to select it. So but that is, it's like you have to find a way to communicate with people. AI isn't going to solve that. And we don't need a bunch of people not employed, right? We need to get people actually skilled up, if anything, and contributing.
And I think that's hopefully going to come back. But my hashtag for years has been, where's the waffle?
Yeah.
Because the waffle button was in the upper left-hand corner, just to explain to people what I mean by that. And at a lot of the Microsoft events, they skewed into Azure, governance, security, all that. That was the focus of all of the content. And especially after COVID, when everything went virtual, there's literally no content on anything except when Microsoft Teams was the focus.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the Word product group? Where's the Excel product group?
Yeah.
These are 95% of the people, what they use every single day.
Even the Power BI stuff, though, it went from like, oh, because we used to focus on that. It was very cool. And then it went to now everything is just basically code, the pseudocode and whatever, but there's still the in-between.
Yeah.
The normal people need to analyze their data.
Right.
So we need to focus there, right?
Yeah. And so that's, now I'm starting to write, there's the waffle. So Mark Cashman, who's one of my favorite people, he's an ex-Microsoftie, just posted something yesterday about Microsoft Listen agents. And I'm like, there's the waffle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. So what do you, besides AI conversation we're having, what else are you spending your time doing? Like, how do you help people?
Right now, several of the projects, because, and it's AI related, some of the best practices that we have been talking about for decades now about cleaning out your trash. One of the migration projects I worked on, they had like 10 gigabytes or terabytes of data that we had to.
A person?
This one woman had a ton, but no.
But for the organization.
For the organization. And I, I'm a moving person. I said, how much of this do you need? Have you gone through it? No, I need everything. She's been at the company for like 20 plus years. She's like, I need everything. So I start moving her stuff. And number one, somebody had backed up their hard drive to the physical hard drive with all of the operation files to a SharePoint site and synced it. And of course, the migration tool was failing, right? And then I start looking at it. So I stopped it. I started looking. I'm like, you really need the potluck sign-up list from 1993. You need that? I need everything. It's like, okay, we don't need everything. And so the focus of several of the projects that I'm working on is finding the rot, the redundant, outdated, and trivial / trash that needs to go. And people are starting to realize that classification of documentation and, what the automatic retention policies you can apply by using those. So coming up with those strategies and helping people to really analyze their content and see what they need. And I have a documentation strategy that I use, and it's the authoring layer, the publication layer.
Oh yeah, we've went through that many times. Yeah,
exactly. So the retention layer is an isolated space that is not subject to search. And I think that's, people try to keep everything in place, or they put everything in a Microsoft team, and there's 10,000 documents in that one document library that has, all these folders, because that's the architecture behind it, and they don't understand they can create other ones. But I think that right now, this next year, people want to start using AI. They are not ready for AI, and they need to start cleaning.
You got to clean. The analogy we would always use is you're going to move your house.
Yes.
So are you going to, and literally our life was like, you've got this
boxes in
giant
the
garage of your kids' crap.
Exactly.
Do you want to move that to your new house?
Exactly.
Right? It's expensive.
If we haven't used it or seen it in 5 years, do we really need it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know when you all moved here, you had that 3-car garage. It was 2 cars deep on one
An
side.
RV.
And then the RV.
It's like a Costco.
And it was full of everything. Your office. And it was like, I just looked at that going, I don't even want to no.
That's why we're never moving again.
I know you have an RV in there now. So
you know what just popped into my head too, because this comes up and I forget that it comes up, and this is with smart people.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, for the love of God, Microsoft has not fixed this yet. The simple thing of, so we've got our client is sending out and creating these invites for these big sessions that are going to happen, and they're using Outlook instead of their internal system, fine. But they don't ever actually know the people that are going to attend. Do you know why?
Why?
Because they don't reply with the send response. People don't know that. And I brought this up to a bunch of software engineers we're working with, and I'm like, you're not on there. You're not in the tracker. You didn't. She's like, I responded. Okay, you responded. For the love of God, Microsoft, put a prompt on there that says the organizer does not know that you've accepted this meeting because you've not sent the response. Or you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like that's been like that for 35 years.
Exactly.
Like, can we update that feature in Outlook? Because it is still happening in 2026.
And don't even get me started on New Outlook, because
I'm
my feet are firmly entrenched in classic Outlook. I'm sorry, not sorry. It's like it's not the same. And some of the MVPs that's their focus is like Hal Hofstetler. He's like, oh no, I'm not using.
I don't even like. I think
and some of those features are missing. You know?
They're missing, and I think accessibility. I'm like, I guess I'm getting older, but I find it hard to see now, and I'm like, oh my God, we sound like those people. We have to be like, how come they don't want to change?
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I know.
But it works so great. Like, fix the stuff that needs fixed. You don't have to change everything for the purpose of changing it, right?
And it's probably fine for somebody who's new to it and they don't know the difference. But sorry, I've been around for 30 years. And
this is hilarious because we're all three change agents. So it's actually quite funny, but not everything needs to change, right?
Yeah.
There is something in that.
Or we're going to hang on to it with our cold, dead hands until they actually bring that functionality
We're deprecating
forward.
classic Outlook.
Well, when they threatened to get rid of OneNote, the desktop version of OneNote, I'm like, I will have that installable file on a, hermetically sealed USB drive for the rest of my life to make sure that I can always install and then of course they gave in and kept the desktop version, got rid of what I called the Windows crap app because it was terrible.
Yes, it was so bad.
But don't take away my OneNote. I use it religiously. So I think there's those people out there, but now OneNote does AI stuff too.
Yeah.
So it, bring us along on the journey, but don't take away.
You know what? We'll create our own MCT version of something for productivity. Maybe we do that, right? That it's like, let's go do it. Yeah. This is a podcast, but hey, whoever's interested, I think we're going to do that because we think there's a need there.
Well, just for clarification of that, the productivity based application trainers were basically pushed out of the MCT program. You have to be a technology-based trainer.
Basically admin or Azure or something in software development. And
so unfortunately, after...
Which means you're teaching that multiple times a year.
Almost 30, I would say almost 20 years in the program. I'm as of December 31st, I'm no longer an MCT.
Me too.
Yeah. So, and I focus on people. Don't make me jump through hoops to do technology classes I don't want to do. And so, like you're saying, maybe we need to have our own designation.
Ding, ding, ding. I think so. I think we just work something out there.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's enough of us that would pull together and do that as well. So,
I will also say this. So we use, in fact, our employees here use a lot of Adobe now too. And I do not have an Adobe. It is full on context switching for me. I have to go, okay, Adobe is nothing like Microsoft.
Yeah.
How do I, even like the simple, changing the type of an image is not logical to me. I do not have the Adobe brain. So then I have to get back in and start using those products to go, oh yeah, they do that instead. AI would probably help with that, right?
Yeah.
So what's the quickest way to do this? I do ask ChatGPT all the time, everything. I was asking, there were football playoffs and I was like, tell me about this player on the blah, blah, blah. I use ChatGPT all the time, kind of like Google sometimes because I know it's just going to go search everything and gives you all the things
you've got
back,
Gemini, you've got ChatGPT. Pick your tool and which one you want to pay for.
Yeah.
So I pay for one. I use the others. But
do you have cloud? Oh, I pay for cloud. I don't use it very much. But
I pay for ChatGPT.
We have
that.
It
saved my bacon actually, in one project I was working on because
I think we should talk about that really quick because I know we're probably going to have to get close. But for anybody that's listening that maybe is using ChatGPT, you pay for it, we pay for it. Why do we pay for it? Why would people need to know? Why would you need to pay for it?
Because it has the higher level and it'll throttle you. You can it only gives you X amount of queries or whatever until it stops, responding, or it takes you back to the lower level of ChatGPT. So that for me was the big one. The project that I was working on that saved my bacon. I'm like, I need to keep going. So I paid it and it's $20 a month. It saves me probably 100 hours a month now, without telling people what I charge on an hourly basis because it varies on different projects. Yeah. Take my money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's other tools like Audiate, which is from TechSmith. Same thing. It saves me so much time.
That's like editing
yes.
in your videos, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you bring videos in it and it does voice recognition and you edit from the text. So when I used to have to edit videos, I'd have to forward back. Oh, I screwed up there and forward back and delete. I can just look at it and I actually edit the videos backwards because every time I say my reset word, which is rephrase, I know everything before that is garbage. You know, so it absolutely streamlines what I do, and I'm an evangelist for that program. So shameless plug.
I love TechSmith too.
But I pay for it because it saves me money. It saves me time. Makes me more productive. So again, let's help the people because they're whittling down and laying people off, and the work.
They'll become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What's the reason that you believe that it's worth to purchase those things?
Well, as part of the learning of the engines themselves, when you're paying for it, then your queries, your prompts are not included in the overall.
I think that's huge.
Learning.
Yeah.
Now that's what's said, and we're assuming that.
Right.
And being able to save them and use them again. Yeah.
But on the back end, I mean, that really what it comes down to. So if you go out to the free version, anything that you put in there, they're using as part of the language model and the learning.
Right.
Whereas when you're paying, it should be protected and isolated.
Like
within
your
account.
domain, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So Jay Leask was one of the people that made me understand the difference of
Jay.
of why it's you have the web and the work in the web toggle. My husband, he's like, I have Copilot. I'm like, do you? And I said, go to your landing
he's
page.
just using it in
Does it say
Edge.
web or work?
Yeah.
You do not have a license unless
Right.
it says web or work.
Yeah.
You're giving them. You're the Gmail
Exactly.
person in this example, right?
Exactly. So if I don't have the web or work toggle on my main Copilot page, it's only leveraging the internal documentation. And again, garbage out, garbage in, garbage amplified. So if you want more robust or more current information, you're going to want to be able to use the web version but now you're exposing your internal stuff out. And that's what people don't know.
That was kind of the reason for me asking that is I think people need to, when you might hear people say, be very careful about putting proprietary information out there. It's free game. If you're not paying for it, 100% you don't want to do that.
Nothing's free because they're learning, they're gathering your
You
data.
are the product.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And your content is the product and now they own it.
Yeah.
So that there is something to be aware of with that.
So before we close out, one thing I wanted to kind of hit on there as well, Sherry, that you had brought up is, having the ability and what you mentioned as well, when it comes down to that entrepreneurial aspect and kind of doing our own thing.
Yeah.
I think this is a significant shift in the world in general right now. The societal contracts that we've had as far as, you go and work for a company and after 40 years you retire and you get your benefits. That's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone, right?
Yep.
And I think what that's doing, though, is it's providing an opportunity for people to be able to contribute in ways that they couldn't in a typical corporate environment.
Right.
Because if you look at corporations right now, some of these corporations are like nation states. They've got more revenue and more, money than actual sovereign states. And I think the thing that is happening is people are fed up with the systems, that we've had in place.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that we can do as entrepreneurs as well is always encourage those that are out there that are even considering doing their own thing, do it.
Do it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a matter of you need to be able to take that risk. And I think that's one of the things that we really try to focus on as well in dealing with small businesses and with entrepreneurs is we have to be hanging together and we have to be doing things that are disruptive.
Yeah.
And part of that is I think there is a great opportunity that even with these people that are getting laid off from these big corporations and everything, and the cover story is it's AI that's replacing. No, I don't believe that.
I believe cover story is probably the right word for that. Yeah.
And I think what that is an opportunity. So if you find yourself right now and you're unemployed and you're not working, don't look at that as a negative. That
It's an opportunity.
positive,
Yeah.
for you.
Well, and there are a lot of companies, the spinoff companies that used to work for Microsoft and now they've started their own thing, or they used to work for some of these other tech companies and they've started their own things. And maybe you can be a consultant for them.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't mean you have to go out and spin your own thing up, you know, because that's not for the week. As you know, like Steve's like, are you working today? I'm like, I work every day. It just depends on what I'm working on. Do I have actual meetings or am I just doing stuff? But I'll work 80 hours a week for myself, not to have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. And, but that, there's opportunities out there if you have that knowledge. And just on a scoping call today, and you know, some of it's a small, very agile, very focused company that brings in alliances together versus you know, some of the competitors that we're up against are like the huge consulting companies that when you pick them, they pay somebody 40 hours a week to sit in your space.
They're embedded. Yeah.
And they may or may not have 40 hours a week of stuff to do, or the project gets delayed, but you're paying for them anyway.
That's like I call it the old Oracle model, because I think it's not just Oracle, but that's who I first saw it with back in the early 90s. It was like, this consultancy thing is weird. They don't have any accountability. They're very expensive. They force their way. It's just, you become enslaved to them and you're the customer. Yeah. I don't, there's a couple things that I mean, the finding your own way and understanding your purpose is huge. Learning right now and having access to all of these tools and to the AI, and just, it's like, if I could have started out that way, it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Because it can help you write your own marketing plan. It can do all that stuff that nobody knew how to do before.
I'm going to get so much done this year.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, so it's an amazing time to do it. You just have to get your mindset there. But there's a lot, like you cannot replace the human. I think we have to be very careful with that. In that, if I were a leader in an organization, I would say AI is great, Agile is great, cloud is great. All these things are great. Change is great. Can we keep a barometer on some of this stuff so that it makes sense for what we're trying to do? Right.
And don't forget the people.
The people.
The people are the core of it.
Yeah.
And when you forget the people is when it fails, because you can build it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they'll come.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Excellent.
Do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to share about yourself?
No, I just enjoy sitting. You know, I could talk to you two all day long. So hopefully everybody, got some little nuggets out of this. It's listening, and of course, we're always here to help. So if if you're having challenges or have advice, reach out. They call me Shortcut Sherry.
They call me Shortcut Sherry. So Shortcut Sherry, you're with Power Up Learning. Yeah. You're on the X because I see you all the time. You're on LinkedIn. You do a lot of posting, right? So
Well, and I kind of neglected my blog last year, but that's coming back again because I'm going to have a little more time to do some stuff and some excited to start doing that again because last year I did 23 events. Yeah. And this year it's like, all right, I got to start focusing a little bit.
You only have so much time. That's the thing. We all make choices and you have the same amount of time. Yeah. So.
But if you have a chance, go out and find the local events that are there too. They're really brilliant people that get paid to speak or are highly paid consultants, deliver stuff for free. Yeah. And there's a lot of great opportunities out there to learn. And, some of them are virtual. So
and become part of the community, really. Because it's like it lets you, in whatever your role is, even if it's AI or whatever, and you're trying to figure this out, there's a community of people that are doing talks all over.
Yes. Right. And regardless of what technology is, communitydays.org is the Microsoft-based one, but they're out there for everything. So get involved with people, especially if you're working in a silo, people are working from home. We still need to have that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry. Well, we'll have you on again. I'm sure we'll do more of this, but
I love it.
Thanks for coming to Boise and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.